Welcome to the deep dive, everyone. Today we have something really, something incredibly fun and honestly quite profound.
We do. We're looking at a fantastic piece of writing today called The Philosophy and Neuroscience of Profanity.
Yeah, and the mission for this deep dive is to explore why swearing isn't just, bad manners. It's actually this philosophically significant, neurologically distinct, and biologically necessary form of human expression.
Right, because usually we tend to look at these words as moral failings or just social infractions, but today we're looking at them as linguistic phenomena that reveal how our brains and our cultures actually work.
Exactly. Because, usually when we think about human language, we picture it as this highly organized filing cabinet in the brain.
hmm
You have a thought, you open the cabinet, you flip through the folders, you pull out the exact right vocabulary word, and then you speak.
It feels like a very deliberate cognitive process.
hmm
We like to believe we're the architects of our own sentences, constructing them piece by piece.
But then you accidentally slam your finger in a car door.
Oh, yeah. And suddenly that pristine filing cabinet is just completely blown to pieces.
Yeah.
You don't take a breath and calmly say, my goodness, I appear to have experienced a sudden, sharp physical trauma.
No, absolutely not.
You let out a string of absolute filth.
Okay, let's unpack this, because the core premise here is that these swear words completely bypass normal cognition and they just land directly in the body.
It's an eruption. I mean, what you're experiencing in that moment of sudden pain, it isn't a failure of vocabulary. It is an entirely different neurological event. You are witnessing a literal linguistic short circuit.
Which is just wild, because you're not using your normal language centers at all.
Not even a little bit.
Yeah.
Neurologically speaking, your normal everyday vocabulary, it lives in the cortex.
Yeah.
That's the outer, highly evolved, rational layer of the brain.
Right.
But profanity, that is processed deep in the limbic system.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's the ancient mammalian, highly emotional core of your brain.
Yeah.
The center for fear, aggression, raw emotion.
Mhm.
So when you swear in response to shock, the signal bypasses the cortex entirely.
That is just fascinating to think about. And the proof for this, I mean, it comes from some incredibly poignant medical cases, right, with aphasia patients.
Yes, exactly. Aphasia is, it's a condition where people suffer a stroke or a traumatic brain injury, and it damages the language centers in their cortex.
And tragically, they lose the ability to produce ordinary language. Like, they lose their grammar, their syntax, just the ability to ask for a glass of water.
But the swearing remains completely intact.
Wait, really? Completely intact.
Completely. A patient might struggle for 5 minutes trying to articulate the name of their own child, get immensely frustrated, and suddenly let out a perfectly articulated, grammatically complex string of curses.
Wow. So the ordinary words disappeared because that specific part of the brain was damaged?
Exactly. But the profanity survived because it's stored in a vault that is much older, more primal, and evolutionarily more protected.
It's basically closer to a primal scream than it is to actual speaking.
That's a great way to put it, yeah.
Which brings us to this fascinating study by Richard Stevens at Keele University. He wanted to test how physical this reflex really is, so he set up this classic pain tolerance test.
Right, the ice water study.
Yeah. He had participants plunge their bare hands into freezing cold buckets of ice water.
Which is a remarkably effective way to measure how the body processes sudden, acute physical distress.
For sure. And the results were just staggering. The people who were allowed to swear repeatedly while their hands were in the ice water, they could tolerate the freezing pain significantly longer than the people who were told to use neutral non-swear words like table or wooden.
Because the mechanism driving that pain relief is actually pharmacological.
Okay, break that down for me.
So when you trigger that limbic bypass by swearing, you initiate a mild fight or flight response. Your body releases a localized spike of adrenaline, your heart rate elevates, and that cocktail of stress hormones has a direct analgesic effect.
It literally kills the pain.
It literally kills pain.
Okay, but wait. I need to pause and challenge the logic here for a second, because there's a missing link.
Okay, go for it.
The limbic system is ancient, right? It evolved millions of years before humans even invented vocal language. So when I stub my toe, I'm not mentally opening a dictionary and choosing a word. It's more like a knee-jerk reflex, like a doctor tapping my knee with a hammer, but for language.
That is exactly it.
But how does a completely made-up, culturally constructed string of sounds, like a modern swear word, manage to hotwire an evolutionary alarm system The biology doesn't know what English is.
What's fascinating here is that the answer lies entirely in childhood conditioning.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Think about how we acquire these specific words. When a young child drops a toy and says a normal word, nothing happens.
Right.
But if that child repeats a taboo word they overheard, the adults around them react dramatically. They gasp, they scold, the atmosphere in the room completely changes.
It's like all the air gets sucked out of the room.
Exactly. And for a developing brain, that sudden, severe adult reaction creates a massive emotional spike. It associates the raw phones, the literal sounds of the word, with fear and shock.
So it gets physically wired into the amygdala.
Yes, bypassing the standard vocabulary filing cabinet. So by the time you're an adult, that word is a loaded weapon.
Wow. So it's essentially an associative reflex. It's like Pavlov's dogs.
Yeah.
But instead of a bell triggering saliva, it's a specific syllable triggering an adrenaline rush.
Spot on. And that's why saying table when your hand is in ice water doesn't trigger the amygdala. There's no taboo there. But there is a catch.
Which is?
The word only works as a painkiller if it maintains its cultural charge. Over time, if society stops being offended by a word, it loses its biological power. Uttering damn won't give you much pain relief today.
Right, it doesn't cut it anymore.
No, it's lost its edge. But dropping a severe F-bomb, that still gets the adrenaline flowing.
Okay, but if swearing is just this primal limbic scream, like an animalistic alarm bell, how is it also somehow the single most grammatically flexible part of human language?
It is a paradox, isn't it?
It really is. I mean, the sheer versatility of the word fuck is staggering. It's a verb, an adjective, a noun, an interjection, an intensifier, or just a completely standalone clause. Like, what the fuck?
Formal linguistics gives us a really great framework for understanding this. Linguists talk about the concept of an expletive.
Right.
In standard grammar, an expletive is a word that takes up syntactic space, but has zero semantic meaning. Like if you say, there is a problem, the word there doesn't actually refer to a location. It's just a placeholder.
It's empty.
Exactly. But a profane expletive is the exact inverse. It isn't empty. It is semantically saturated. It is overfull of emotional content to the point where it modifies and amplifies everything it touches.
Here's where it gets really interesting. How can a word technically mean nothing specific, yet amplify everything it touches?
Well, standard language is what we might call managed presentation. It's polite, it's controlled.
Right, like saying something is really quite good. It feels like I'm wearing a suit, it's formal, but saying it's fucking incredible feels like I just ripped the suit off. Is the swear word just the sound of a mask dropping?
That is the perfect way to visualize it. The profane intensifier proves that your emotional investment has elevated way beyond the ordinary. You are no longer managing your presentation.
You're just reporting a raw, felt experience.
Exactly. The polite social mask slips and reality breaks through.
But since these words are just sounds, what actually gives them that emotional saturation? The power obviously isn't in the letters themselves, so what makes the mask slip?
The power resides entirely in what a society decides must be hidden.
Which brings us to the architecture of shame, especially around the human body.
Right.
Look at scatological profanities, words for bodily waste. They get all their explosive power from the elaborate systems we build to pretend we aren't physical, biological creatures.
We have collectively agreed that the biological realities of being a mammal are, well, there's something to be managed and kept strictly invisible.
So the transgression of the swear word isn't the biological function itself. The transgression is the exposure. The word just violently drags what's meant to be hidden out into the open air.
Yes. And philosophically, this reveals a deep cultural split. For centuries, we've ranked mental and spiritual processes as high and noble, while ranking biological processes as low and dirty.
Right.
So uttering a scatological swear word becomes this profoundly philosophical act. It reveals our collective shame about embodiment.
And you can actually trace how those specific cultural fears shift by looking at the life cycle of historical swear words. Like, take the sacred origins of words like damn and hell.
Right. Centuries ago, those were not casual filler words. They were the absolute most severe profanities you could utter.
Because they carried massive cosmic weight. To damn something wasn't just to say you disliked it. It was invoking literal divine condemnation.
It was a severe, literal threat, invoking the most terrifying reality in the medieval cosmological framework.
But then that framework dissolved. The culture became more secular, the fear fell out, and the words just degraded into mild filler.
Exactly.
It sounds like a swear word is essentially a battery. It gets plugged into a cultural fear-like medieval theology or bodily shame and charges up. But when the culture stops fearing that specific thing, the battery dies, and the word just becomes a harmless linguistic paperweight.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the word outlives the wound. The taboo shifts to a new anxiety, but the old word remains, showing us exactly how our relationship to fear changes over the centuries.
Okay, so if the battery is charged entirely by cultural taboos,
Hmm.
what happens when we look at cultural geography? Because we see situations today where two different cultures look at the exact same word and experience a completely different emotional reality.
This is the ultimate proof that the force of a word is assigned, not inherent. And the most striking example is the geographic divide surrounding the C word.
Right. In the US, it is uniquely severe. It's heavily weaponized, overtly misogynistic, and targeted at female anatomy. It carries a massive destructive charge.
The social weight of it in the United States is immense.
Mm.
But cross the ocean to the UK, Australia, or Ireland, and that exact same phonetic sound functions across a dramatically wider register.
Right, like it's still used as an insult, sure, but also as a term of affection or admiration or just generic punctuation. Like calling a friend a funny C word in Australia is fundamentally different from screaming it in American traffic.
Completely different. It proves phonemes have no inherent force. It is 100% culturally assigned. And because that charge is added, there's an argument that these words can be metabolized and reclaimed over time.
Like the slow, fierce reclamation of the word bitch over the last few decades.
Exactly. It's an attempt to drain the venom by changing who wields the word.
But wait, I have to push back on this idea of easy reclamation. If a word has been historically weaponized to dehumanize people, like the American usage here, can we ever fully neutralize it? Doesn't the ghost of the original trauma always linger in the syllables, even if a new generation tries to reclaim it?
That's a very fair point, and the text emphasizes this too. The misogynistic charge in the U.S. is very real, and it does real damage.
Right.
Reclamation is not a simple switch. It's a slow, messy, generational redistribution of power. The trauma does linger, often for decades, which just shows how deeply these cultural assignments embed themselves in our neurology.
Wow. And since these words carry such immense shifting cultural weight, it really impacts how we use them to navigate reality, doesn't it? I mean, think about arguments online. This brings us to Harry Frankfurt's landmark 2005 philosophical essay on bullshit.
Frankfurt provides us with such a crucial framework here for evaluating truth.
Yeah, he makes this vital distinction between a liar and a bullshitter. A liar actually knows what the truth is and asserts the opposite. They have an adversarial relationship with reality, but they're still in the game.
Right, they're playing the game, just cheating at it. The bullshitter, on the other hand, simply does not care about the truth at all. They have opted out of the game entirely.
Which is why Frankfurt argues that a world of bullshitters is actually worse than a world of liars. Bullshit at scale erodes the very framework of truth. So when you say that's bullshit, you're making a precise epistemological accusation.
Exactly. You are diagnosing a breakdown in the rules of how we determine what is true. You're saying the speaker has severed their connection to reality.
It's a profound ethical charge. And speaking of the ethics of swearing, we have to debunk this pervasive myth. The idea that people who swear frequently just have a limited vocabulary.
Oh, yes. If you were smarter, you'd use a better word argument. It's a very common assumption, but linguistic research has entirely dismantled it.
Right. Studies by Timothy J. and Kristen Janschewitz prove the exact opposite.
Yes. They found that people who possess larger overall vocabularies actually generate larger profane vocabularies.
Because swearing doesn't replace eloquence, it just adds an entirely new range to your expression.
Exactly. However, there is one valid criticism of frequent swearing, and it comes down to the discourse degradation argument.
So what does this all mean? It's like using a highlighter on a textbook, right? If you highlight one sentence, it's important. But if you highlight the entire page, you've highlighted nothing. If every other word is an F-bomb, you've basically bankrupted the word's power, right?
This raises an important question about habituation. Profanity functions very much like a drug. Think of it like caffeine.
Okay.
If you have 1 cup of coffee a week, it hits you with incredible force. But if you habituate to it, if you drink 6 cups a day, the entire register of intensity collapses. Its expressive power relies entirely on its relative rarity.
You spend it into oblivion if you use it constantly.
Exactly.
It is genuinely amazing to step back and realize that swearing is this irreplaceable register of human expression. It lives closest to our physical bodies, it processes through ancient neural machinery, and it accomplishes things that polite language physically cannot do.
So the next time you stub your toe, or you feel the profound urge to call out someone's bullshit, take a moment to realize what you're doing. You are engaging in a philosophically loaded, neurologically distinct, and pharmacologically active event.
Which leaves me with one final thought for you to ponder as we wrap up this deep dive. If our deepest fears and bodily shames dictate our strongest words, and those taboos are constantly shifting, what do you think the ultimate unspeakable swear word of the future will be? What is the one thing our modern society is desperately trying to hide right now that will become the raw, eruptive curse word of the next century? It's a thing to think about. We'll see you next time.